And even if I'm slow, she's patient with the pace I grow. And when I am alone, she's with me every place I go. I want you to know that I'm still trying. You see through my bed, you know I have my mood. When I'm super low and you pull me higher. We're miles apart, but not that hard, my good.
Welcome. We're back. Another day in the market. Crazy day for Bitcoin. Went all the way up to, let's see, about 40.5K at one point today, and now it's pulled back about a few $1,000s. A lot of cryptos across the board also going pretty nuts. For the stock market, though, was a relatively flat day for pretty much all the major indices. The S&P was up 1/4%, the Russell was up 1/3%, the NASDAQ was pretty much flat. We had Tesla earnings after hours. I believe that Tesla beat on both EPS and revenue. The price went up like 1%, I believe, at the final close of the day. So we're going to see what all that turns into. Tomorrow we got another big day. Apple reports tomorrow, I believe, and Microsoft and Alphabet, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be a pretty interesting day for sure. We're going to look at all the charts. We're going to see what's up. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Yeah, just start off with Bitcoin. You know, went all the way up to 40.5K. It's come back down a few thousand. Really not much data. It's just kind of a straight line up, and then we pulled back a little bit right now. I could really see Bitcoin going either direction in the short term. If you were watching my stream from last week, I was pretty bullish on Bitcoin down here at 32K with the bullish engulfing candle and the falling wedge and the 30K support. And now it's already had a really good run. So I have no clue whether this run continues in the short term, whether we continue pulling back. It's just, there's not much of any pattern or divergence over here. So just a waiting game right now for Bitcoin. But a lot of altcoins are looking really interesting. I put out a few altcoin trades. The Doge trade at one point today was up 27%. Right now it's only up about 10%. So big pullback there since Bitcoin pulled back. Another crypto trade I put out was Atom, which is currently up about 14%. Not too much of a pullback there. Then we also had Chainlink, which at one point, let's just do it like this. At one point this was up about 32%. Right now it's up 19%. So they're still up, but definitely they were up a lot more during the day before the pullback. And then I put out a new crypto idea today, which is actually down. Not the best timing. This is currently down about 6%. In about probably 5 hours or so. But this chart is really interesting. It's at a very big level, this 20-cent level on NU. It was the lowest from June and May, and it was also support back in January of this year. And apart from that, it's breaking out of a downsloping channel. And there's actually quintuple classic bullish divergence on the daily MACD. I don't think I've ever seen that before, at least I don't remember it. So that's a lot of bullish divergence where basically the price is constantly making lower lows, but each time it makes a lower low, you're getting less negative momentum. So a lot of bullish divergence. I don't know how much more bullish divergence you could possibly get. Even on the RSI, you have triple classic bullish divergence. So that's a new idea. We'll see how this one goes. Probably depends on Bitcoin. But yeah, let's move on to the stock market. Now I'm going to talk about the overall market. After I do that, we'll probably talk about CLOV, AMC, SOFI. Then we're going to talk about the ongoing trades. And then after I cover everything, we'll probably do ticker requests in the chat. So just looking at the market from today, like I said, relatively flat. Tesla had earnings after the close. Tomorrow, another big earnings day, like I said earlier. A large part of the market this week is going to be fundamental. I don't really think it's going to be super technical. We have a lot of major earnings, and I also believe tomorrow and the day after the FOMC meeting will take place, like it did in the middle of last month. So both earnings and the Fed meeting can affect the market and probably will overweight technicals. So that definitely matters a lot more in the short term, in either a good or a bad way. And we're going to find out within the coming days. Hopefully, maybe nothing happens. You never know. But yeah, looking at the technicals, the S&P closed at all-time highs today. There's definitely a bunch of gaps to the downside that it has to fill, but somehow there's hidden bullish divergence on the daily for the S&P 500, and like I've been talking about on stream, there's also 4-hour hidden bullish divergence not only on the S&P 500 but also on the NASDAQ. So hidden bullish divergence implies a continuation to the upside. The NASDAQ also closed right around all-time highs. I actually think it did close at, yeah, that was the highest close ever for the NASDAQ today. So market is still just like on autopilot, trending higher. Dow Jones, like Cheddar Freezer said in the chat, also hit all-time highs and closed at all-time highs today. So, if you're just looking at the indices, the market is just continuing to make new highs pretty much almost every day at this point. But on the flip side, we're still seeing a lot of lagging, not only small caps. Small caps actually had a decent day today, but especially mid caps and growth stocks, they're still lagging. While the NASDAQ and the S&P and the Russell and the Dow Jones were all green, the ARK ETF was actually red today. It was down a little bit over 0.5%. So we're still seeing this situation where there's just not a lot of speculation money into these growth innovation names that this ETF attempts to track or has certain holdings in. And that's just really the market we're in. So it's not the best for how I swing, because I do swing a lot of these types of names. But that's just what it is for right now. So I'm trying to look at cryptos as well, other different stocks, and just seeing what's looking the best. Just from a technical standpoint, market still looks bullish to me. We're making higher highs and higher lows. Even on the Russell 2000 today, it had a green day. It was actually up more than the S&P and the NASDAQ. It even gapped up in the morning. So it's really interesting just looking at the market. Things look okay for right now. Obviously that can change with fundamentals, or even without fundamentals, people can just start selling. But that's just the market we have right now. In hindsight, this was pretty close to like an alternate bat. A little bit too perfect of a double top, but maybe came down. Yeah, it came down to the 1.13 retrace. So that's pretty interesting to see on the Russell 2000. And yeah, just looking at other things, the VIX was up a couple percent today, nothing too crazy. The 10-year note didn't really move today. So it's really, right now we're just heading into earnings tomorrow and into the Fed meeting with pretty stable technicals, nothing too bearish, nothing insanely bullish, just a good market, a good trend, and no need to overcomplicate that. So we could probably move on now. Yeah, we'll talk about Tesla first, actually, because of the earnings. Like I said earlier, if you missed it, I believe they beat on both EPS and revenue. This is something I've been looking at for like over a week now, even before the earnings. I think the technicals look pretty good on Tesla. I was just waiting to see how the earnings went, and for now they look okay. We'll see how people react to it tomorrow, but kind of looks similar to Wyckoff accumulation to me on this Tesla chart. I could probably pull up an example really quickly, just so you can see what I'm talking about if you're not too familiar with Wyckoff accumulation and this schematic. So let me do this and then go up a little bit. So basically, you know, Wyckoff formations have been around for, I think, like maybe around a century at this point. I'm not exactly sure, but they're very, very old pattern ideas, and you know, they tend to play out pretty interesting over time. They definitely take a lot of patience. If anybody was here back in January, we had a really good trade on Fisker, which had a Wyckoff pattern as well, and Tesla kind of looks similar to this to me. It's not perfect, but you definitely could see that you have this base level over here at around 550. It's kind of springing actually higher than that original base level, which is kind of the opposite of what you would normally see, around 580-ish. And now it looks like we finally gotten back above into these higher areas of the range. And there's even hidden bullish divergence on the 4-hour for Tesla. So I like the technicals on Tesla quite a bit here. We'll just see how people react to the earnings report tomorrow. I didn't read it. All I saw was like the EPS and the revenue. So we're going to see what all that turns into, but I think any close above the 200-day moving average on Tesla is a bullish close. It's already reversing its trend, just making higher highs and higher lows on higher time frames. So Tesla looks pretty good to me for right now. Pretty good volume today as well. Highest volume in about a few weeks or a couple weeks, which makes sense because of the earnings. And yeah, moving on, we'll probably talk about CLOV, AMC, and SOFI now. And after that, we'll do the ongoing trades, and then we'll do the ticker requests in the chat. Don't drop any tickets just yet though. So let me take a look at the chat first. What's up, Steven, in the chat? Appreciate that, Colin. Miami's pretty good, Sonny. Thank you. Michael says your free trading course was extremely informative. Thanks for putting that together. Absolutely. Glad to see you're enjoying it. If anybody hasn't seen it, it's on my channel. Just go to playlists and you'll be able to find it. What else we got? Yeah, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Medji says another big dub in options for premium today. Shout out to Champ. We'll see. It might not be over yet. We'll see how that ticker does in the coming days. But yeah, very good start for that options trade. What else we got? All right, so I think that's the most of it in the chat. I did not bring my Miami Heat shirt to Miami, actually, KTF. Wearing an FTM shirt right now. If you want one, just hit the pin chat and you could see all the merch if you want any merch. Also, we could send tips if you ever want to. What else we got? Cheddar Free says Tesla's quarter-end cash and equivalents decreased to 16.2 billion. So we'll see how that affects things. I also didn't look at how their Bitcoin holdings, I guess, are going in transactions. I don't even know what's up with that at this point, because Elon's been back and forth for pretty much the whole entire year. But yeah, so we on from Tesla. Let's talk about CLOV now. We're going to talk about CLOV, AMC, and SOFI. I just like covering these names. You know, a lot of people request them and message me about them, so I just look at them every single night, and then we can put them in the timestamps. But first off, CLOV had a green day today. It was up about 2%. Still got hidden bullish divergence on the daily and the 4-hour. Still looks like it's double bottoming at the pattern completion zone of a bullish crab harmonic pattern. Like I've been saying for a while now, even on the 1-hour, there's actually hidden bullish divergence on CLOV that I charted today. So it's been like this for a while. Still bullish technicals, just like I've been saying for every single night. Just not the best float. I believe earnings are towards the beginning of August, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see how that affects things. You know, it's just a lot of bag holders in this stock. It became a meme stock. It got very crowded. So a lot of the bounces, really all the bounces for the last almost 2 months at this point, really ever since like June 10th, have been sold off, unfortunately. So it just comes down to, you know, when we get enough float rotation on this name to see a better trend, because it's still making lower highs and lower lows. So really what you're looking for on CLOV is just a trend reversal. You know, there's no way to kind of predict it until it happens. Well, I guess you could just try and predict it, but like, again, I'm just going to wait to see until it happens. I'm going to be looking for higher highs and higher lows for more confirmation that there's just more optimistic traders in this name. But yeah, I think in terms of the levels, I think anything above 767 is good. 887 is your closest resistance. If you break that, then you got 990, which was the support from when it was a SPAC. And that's really it for CLOV. So we'll see what this does tomorrow. The options chain has been loaded up for weeks now on this, so you know, any big moves can definitely turn into bigger moves. It's just a question of if the volume will come in, and the volume has been very dry ever since like June 10th. So that's really it for Clover. AMC had a big bounce today. It was up 9% during the day, and it looks like it actually was able to make a higher low, so that's really good. It ended up bouncing off of that 36 level, which, like I've been talking about, used to be resistance in 2015 and 2016. It flipped into support within the last 2 weeks or so. Bounced off that level again, so it's hitting bullish divergence on the daily. Looks really interesting. You know, now it's making a higher low after breaking out of this descending broadening wedge. It says earnings are on August 4th according to TradingView. I think anything above 36 on AMC is bullish, and your next major resistance will be 51. You probably got a little bit of a minor resistance at 46.40. It was your candle high on July 12th, and then also on July 21st. So that's probably your short-term resistance for AMC, and also did gap up today just a little bit. Not too much of a big deal there. Yeah, that's AMC. Next up, we got SOFI. I was looking at the low time frame charts on SOFI today. It was very weird. It kept on having little bounces and then little pullbacks. They were just pretty much range bound the whole day. But I definitely wasted a few hours looking at the 5-minute chart on this ticker today. But really, it had a big day, I believe, last, well, today's Monday, so last Wednesday, I believe it had a 10% day, and it's just spent the last 3 days kind of really not doing much, just pulling back a little bit. You know, it still is higher than the open of last Wednesday, so I think as long as SOFI can just stay above last week's lows, it looks really interesting. There's now confirmed hidden bullish divergence on the daily for SOFI on the MACD, and it's also kind of there on the RSI, so let me just chart that. Yeah, all you want to do is just really hold above last week's lows. It already hit the pattern completion zone of a bullish bat, got near a pretty important support level back from April and May. You know, I've been looking at this one for weeks now, and I've been saying I think the technicals look good. It's just similar to Clover. It's just not a great float. So maybe these names do need catalysts just to get the ball rolling, or just natural rotation, which just takes time. You know, a lot of the times when you have a name that has a crazy run up and then a crazy run down, you're going to have bag holders. And either you need a catalyst to get a huge volume day on the ticker, which, you know, gets the bag holders out, they cut their losses, and then newer trader comes in. Or instead of a catalyst, well, you could just have just naturally over time, you know, things will kind of just work themselves out, and you're going to get a different float over time. It's all about, you know, who is trading the stock and what they think, if the stock is going to go higher or lower. That's why stock prices move. If more people think it's going to go higher and are buying the shares, it's going to go up, and then vice versa. So yeah, we'll see what happens with SOFI. Now we're going to talk about the ongoing trades. As soon as I finish this, which should only take a couple minutes, we are going to do ticker requests for the rest of the stream. Don't drop tickers in the chat just yet though. First one is Fisker. It was up 2% today. The trade is currently up 5%, back above the 200-day moving average. Not much has changed. Just a little bit of a bounce today, which is pretty good considering the ARK ETF was down, so a lot of growth stocks were down. Maybe it could have been a little bit of a sympathy for Lucid, which actually merged today, which I guess we could talk about as well. There's a lot that I need to talk about. I want to talk about Lucid, and I want to talk about crypto stocks. So let me add those to my watch list before we do take requests. But let's just continue with the ongoing trades. Any day that Fisker closes above the 200-day moving average looks pretty good to me. So we'll see if this trade can continue to do well. Yeah, starting to make it's trying to make a higher low from the low on July 19th compared to the low of the 23rd. So looking good for right now. Patience, we'll see what happens. Moving on, we got Skills. I think I learned this like maybe last Friday. This is still right at the entry of the trade if you didn't see it. Classic bullish divergence on the 4-hour. It broke this green supply line, attempting to make a slightly higher low double bottom, and all that is happening at the pattern completion zone of a bullish bat and at a very important critical area historically, right? This 1423 level was resistance in September, pretty much all the way until like December of last year. And now it's attempting to become support. I don't know, I can't talk right now, but yeah, so we'll see what this one does. It's really not changed either. It was down a little bit today. It was up a little bit on Friday. We'll see what happens. BlackBerry, again, no change. You know, a lot of these names, a lot of the swings just really haven't moved too much. It's really you know, if you're not in premium, the crypto trades have been pretty good over the past few days. And if you are in premium, then the options trades have been pretty good for the last 2-3 weeks. I think we're on about like a 9-for-9 streak right now on options in the premium group. So it's like crypto, and then short-term options have been where I've been, you know, looking at to make money in the short term. It's not a great environment for swing trades. There's a lot of charts that look pretty good. They have divergence and patterns and everything, but there's just not a lot of action. There's not a lot of money flow going into these types of names, unfortunately. Right now, it's just kind of the large cap tech stocks pulling up the market. So, you know, we'll see what all that turns into in the coming weeks. Yeah, in terms of BlackBerry, still, it's just back testing the breakout, or it might still be trying to break out of this downsloping channel. Still hitting bullish divergence on the daily. 4-hour is losing positive momentum on the MACD, but I think really all it needs to do is hold above $9.60, which was a resistance in April of this year. It was a resistance in December of last year, and then if we go all the way back, it was a support in August of 2018. And I think that's about it for BlackBerry. Next up, we got Wish, hitting bullish divergence. Again, just really, none of these really moved today, so I don't really want to reiterate the technicals every single day, but hitting bullish divergence on the daily, still above 874. As long as it can hold above that, I think it looks good. Already broke out. It's just the technicals are already there. For a lot of these names, the technicals are already there. It's just the price action hasn't really happened yet. You know, you're not really seeing the bounces. It's just like the technicals are there. If buyers come in, you have a pretty good setup, but for right now, the buyers are just kind of, I guess, either in large caps or just sitting on the sidelines for right now, or in crypto, who knows? They're just not really in these types of names for right now. That's just like the fact of the matter. So today, Wish was pretty flat. Not too much of a change there. Even on the 1 hour, not too much to talk about. So finally, just finish off the ongoing trades, and then we're going to talk about some other stuff. Another one that did nothing, DOC, still just consolidating under that $19 resistance. I still think it looks good. Just, I'm sorry to be repetitive here. It's just that's what the market currently is for a lot of these names. It's just very repetitive this whole entire month. Just either slow bleeding or just completely going sideways for a lot of mid caps and growth stocks and even small caps. So yeah, now we can talk about some other things in the market that had a pretty interesting day. First one was Lucid, had its merger today. Used to be CCIV, Churchill Capital. Now it's Lucid, officially Lucid Motors. But in a big move today, from the open to the high of the day, was actually up 15% at one point, but it closed up about 10%. I think I might have messed it up a little bit. Let's see. So this would have been like the first candle. Yeah, opened at 25, closed at 26. So I don't know why it's saying that. I don't know. Something's messed up with TradingView there, or I'm just looking at the wrong way. But Lucid looks pretty interesting. I don't really think technicals matter too much. It's just how people think about this stock, you know, after the merger. It should be the same thing, but we have seen a lot of SPACs have pretty rough sell-offs after their merger, unfortunately. Not all of them. I think even Fisker had a good run right after its merger. That was when we were playing the bullish butterfly, what, like last November, October, something like that. So not all of them have bad runs. So Lucid was able to hold up today. We'll see what this does tomorrow. It already did break out of this supply line right here, so it's definitely bullish for right now. Just depends on how high it will go before pulling back. And that's really it for Lucid. Another sector that was really hot today, probably the best sector today, was crypto stocks, and it makes sense because of Bitcoin and because of what cryptos have been doing. You know, SOS is one name. I was looking at a lot of them. Like, I have all of them on my watch list: RIOT, Mara, SOS, EBON, I think LGHL maybe. SOS looks really interesting to me. It's kind of like just broken out of a major falling wedge that started in February, and then it even back tested the wedge already pretty much. It even filled a gap, and then today bounced back up. Not much divergence on the daily, but there is divergence on the weekly. Hidden bullish divergence developing on the weekly, so SOS is one that's definitely on my watch list going into tomorrow. It was up 22% today, so definitely there were better times to be entering within literally the past 2 weeks, or really the last 4 or 5 days, honestly. But yeah, we'll see what this turns into, because even though it was up 22% today, it still is you know, if we go all the way up, it's still like 80% lower than it was in the middle of February. So it just depends on how you look at it. But it's back above this 286 level, which was resistance in October. In July of last year, it was support in May of this year. You know, if Bitcoin can hold up, SOS looks really interesting to me. Definitely at the top of my watch list for the next few days. Maybe it needs a little bit of a pullback before going higher. You never know. It depends on Bitcoin. So just keep an eye on that. Another one is RIOT. I missed this one. There was a couple people in the Discord asking me about it. And kind of not only RIOT, but also Mara looked like a bullish shark to me. They both had like, you know, they both move very similarly. So kind of had like a bullish shark formation completing on both RIOT and MARA last week. And now with Bitcoin, obviously they've gone up, you know, from the lows last week to today, they've gone up. Well, Mara went up 44%, and then RIOT from last week's lows to today's high also went up about 44%. So big moves on them. Anything else? Chinese stocks have been getting crushed. You know, the education stocks like TAL and EDU literally got demolished over the past. They've been getting demolished ever since February, but really in the last like week or so, I think there was some news that came out. They've gotten destroyed. So that's another sector of the market that's, I don't know if I want to say interesting, but just there's a lot of activity going on there. This is EDU. You know, this actually was a trade all the way up over here. It was a trade over here. I think it must have been like a, you know, 8-9% loss. And this is why you use stop losses, right? Because if you didn't stop out of the trade when it failed up here for a 7 or 8% loss, then you could have been down, you know, 70% like a week or two later. So thankfully, tight stop loss on that trade, and thankfully it didn't gap down during that trade. The trade already got finished out before this crazy dump. But yeah, they've definitely, you know, sold off heavily. I mean, if we go over to the monthly chart, this year alone, EDU has pretty much taken out over a decade of an uptrend. It had pretty much over a decade of an uptrend, and within 7 months, it's taken that out. Really, within 6 months, it's taken out that whole entire decade-long uptrend. And I don't even know if these companies have changed fundamentally, if it's just like the government and the news around Chinese stocks. I actually don't know, but sucks, you know, for these companies. You have a whole entire decade of just really good price action, and then within a matter of, you know, 5-6 months, you lose all of that market cap and stock price. So we'll see how these do, if they bounce back, or if they just, I don't know, turn into something like Luck and Coffee, which if anybody remembers this from last year, was a very similar story. It got destroyed last year, right around over here. In, I guess with the COVID crash, they had some, I believe, like accounting fraud allegations or something like that. Don't quote me. And this one went from like 42 to $2, and now it's actually been turning into an uptrend. But I believe they might have delisted it from trading in America or something, or now it says OTC. So I'm not too sure. But yeah, that's pretty much the final part of the recap. Bitcoin's currently at 37K roughly. Futures are relatively flat, down a little bit. Altcoins pulling back a little bit in the last half an hour. And that's really the recap from today. So hopefully that gave you some insight on the market. Let me take a look at the chat again. Not too much in the chat, it looks like. Yeah, there was the Amazon news with Bitcoin, kind of went back and forth. I mean, there's always going to be some sort of news. I just look to the charts and let the charts tell me how other people feel, and I just play that. A lot of people talking about Neo right now. We can take a look at that for a second here. Neo 43 is a very big level, as you can see right over here. 43 was your high in the middle of, or towards the end of April actually, and then it flipped into a support. You could see, let me just chart it. So it was pretty much your high in the middle of April, and then kind of like this level was also a support in the beginning of July. It's looking pretty interesting. Maybe a little bit of hidden bullish divergence on the 1 hour is developing. There is a gap to fill at like $46 on the 1 hour. And then on the daily it would be like 45, 47. I think in Neo it's like a potential low risk, high reward area, because literally 43 is like the level, like 42, 72 pretty much. Like, so you're you're technically, for entering right here, you'd be risking like 1% or 2% if you want to place your stop loss a little bit lower so you don't get stop hunted. And then, you know, targeting, you could target the 200-day moving average at 43.85. You could target the gap fills. You could target this 2-day high. Like, pretty interesting area for NEO. Don't see much of any formations on it on higher time frames though. So yeah, we'll see what that does. You know, didn't really do much today with Lucid going crazy, and then also with Tesla beating earnings. I don't know if it did anything after hours, but Fisker was up. So yeah, that is NEO. And I'm gonna look at two other tickers for Medi. Medi does the timestamps for the stream. If you didn't know, after every single stream, if you ever miss out on one of the streams, everything is always recorded and it's immediately uploaded to my channel. And we also put timestamps, or Medi does the timestamps, and I just put them onto the stream. So every single ticker I go over will be in the pinned comment, like under the video at the end of the stream, and it'll also be like you could see them using the scroll bar. So he just asked me to look at two tickers, so we'll take a look at them for him. First one was PSTV. I think $2 is a really important level. It's been a historical support since 2019, multiple different times. Looks like it might have broken out of a little supply line, had a quick move to the upside, and then it kind of came back down. Now hidden bullish divergence is possible on PSTV, on both the MACD and the RSI on the daily. Anything else? The 4 hour, there's not really much I can do with how gappy it is, but I guess you could call this classic bullish divergence on the 4 hour. So definitely a decent amount of divergence on this chart. I'm not a big fan of how it like kind of broke above the 200 moving average and then immediately just came back down. So not a big fan of that. Looks like it might have been around earnings, if I'm not mistaken. So I think at this point it's all just about holding above $2. And then another one he wanted me to look at was FSM. I was looking at this chart for a couple weeks. It was looking really interesting. I was trying to, you know, line up a trade on it. It just never really showed any bullish price action. It just never bounced. It just kept on selling off. But still, it's looking interesting. It actually broke to the downside of a downsloping channel, which is pretty hard to do. But there still is classic bullish divergence on the daily for FSM. It is oversold on the RSI. There's actually triple classic bullish divergence on the 4 hour. So the oscillators look really good for FSM. I don't know if it's at much of a level though. Let me try and see. Yeah, it actually is. This 428 level was support in 2017. It was resistance in 2019 and 2020. So I think as long as it can hold above 428, that's a really interesting area alongside the divergence on this name. I don't see much of a harmonic, unfortunately. So maybe just look at it like this, like just chart supply line for a potential breakout, and you just want to hold above 428 on FSM. So there you go, Medi. And yeah, that's pretty much the full recap of everything from today. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed that recap. Let's get to 30 likes right now. We got 30 people in here. Hit that subscribe button if you didn't already and you're enjoying the stream. And yeah, as long as you do that, I don't see any reason for us to not do ticker requests. So let's do ticker requests right now. If you want me to take a look at a ticker, probably look at these charts for about like 20-30 minutes or so. So just drop your tickers in the chat. Don't request anything that was up over 30% today. I don't like chasing things. I'm not a momentum trader. I'm more of a reversal trader. And don't request anything that IPO'd within the last month. I need data on a chart to analyze the chart, believe it or not. So yeah, we'll take a look at this. Nothing I say is financial advice. Technical analysis is probability, it's not certainty. So let's get into this. Make sure to hit that like button. And we're going to start off with, I think Cheddar Freeze was talking about a ticker earlier, MAT. We'll start off with that. And then we'll go into WTI. All right. So we got WTI. FUBO looks really interesting. Space. AUY. C. OCGN. We already looked at Wish earlier. It'll be in the timestamps. Wish, not much has changed on Wish. It's just, you know, like most other stocks within the growth sector, it's just really not seeing any price action. It's just kind of slowly pulling down a little bit. The technicals on Wish look pretty good to me still, as long as it can hold above, I don't know why it got taken off. You know, on Wish, as long as it can continue to hold above 874, it still looks really interesting to me. It's just, I don't know if any buyers will come in, right? That's always the part of trading. You know, you can have all your technicals and your fundamentals, but sometimes you're just not going to be buyers in the certain sectors that you're looking at. So it's just a matter of time, in my opinion, but could go lower before it goes higher. You never know. I hope it does well. There's obviously a trade on it right now, so it's just hopefully the sector can start doing better. That's really all I could say for that. So I put in DraftKings, Pinterest, Square. All right, we're gonna start off with these. We're gonna start off with MAT. It was up 9% today. Let me delete all that. There was definitely a triple classic bullish divergence on the daily MACD, and it looks like it also broke out of a falling wedge. So triple classic bullish divergence, break out of a falling wedge. It says earnings are tomorrow apparently. If that's true, then that's really all that matters. I don't know if TradingView is correct, but they're probably about correct 70% of the time, I'd say. I don't know, I feel like, you know, on MAT, they're definitely, oh, you're saying there is earnings tomorrow, right? Yeah, I mean, there definitely was a better area to enter MAT, because now it's probably around the 50% retrace. Yeah, it already hit it perfectly. So, you know, typically the best way to play falling wedges is you enter near the demand line of the falling wedge, like on this low or around this low when it was at the 200-day moving average. And then you would have entered around over here, place your stop loss however percent lower, and then you typically target the 50% retrace from your high down to your swing low like that. And as you can see, if you did that, you'd have pretty much sold at the high of the day today. So we'll see what this turns into. I think at this point, I'd like to see it hold above $20.50. That was a resistance in the beginning of this month. It was a support in the beginning of June. So I think 20.50 is the important area for MAT. We'll see how that does with earnings tomorrow. WTI also has earnings pretty soon, beginning of August, according to TradingView. Nice uptrend ever since the COVID crash. Probably just look at it like this. Already broke out right there. A little bit of like a downsloping channel with hidden bullish divergence, so not bad. Even on the RSI, your target would probably be $5. You definitely have a lot of historical resistance at around $5.14. And then you just want to stay above 351. So there was a better entry area here as well. But still looks pretty good to me right now. We'll see what it does with earnings. You just got to stay above 351, which I know is not the easiest thing to hear, because that's obviously 15% lower than the current price, but that really is the closest major support on the daily. Maybe a little bit here at 397, $4, psychological area. FUBO is next. We were looking at this last night. You got hidden bullish divergence on the daily, a potential inverse head and shoulders. It already broke out of this supply line. I think I have it charted on the 4-hour. Yeah, it already broke out like a descending broadening wedge. If it can just break above 28, you'd be above this resistance area, which used to be a support, and then you'd also be back above the 200-day moving average. So it definitely is looking really interesting. It says earnings are August 10th, so you still have some time until then. I would just like to see it get above the 200-day moving average. Space is just currently chopping around at the 200-day moving average as well. Hidden bullish divergence definitely is developing on the daily, which is good. I'd say probably 27 is a pretty strong area. It was your high last July. It was resistance last December. It was support this March. But it is finding support a little bit higher. It looks like at around 29 almost. So I guess this is your zone that you just want to stay above. It's like this, like 20, really you just want to stay above 27 to $28. If you break under that, then you got gap fills much lower. So I would just like to see it stay above this zone, honestly. Next up we got AUY. $4 is the really important area. I think it's just, that's really it. It says earnings are on July 29th, so it's all about earnings, you know? There's not much you could do when earnings are a couple days away or a few days away in terms of technicals. So however the earnings go will probably be more important on that one, but I just like to see it hold above 4. That's your previous low from the beginning of March. Next up, we got Citigroup. A little bit of classic bullish divergence on the daily for Citigroup, on the MACD as well as the RSI. So oscillators look pretty good. It's at an important area. This 67.89 area, I'd like to see it get back above that. It's barely under it. Maybe just a little bit of like a downsloping channel here as well. That's really it. So if it breaks that, you could probably just target the top. Otherwise, your strongest support would probably be around like $64.60. It's your previous low from, I guess, last week, and then also your 200-day moving average. OCGN is next. It's in like a multi-level range, which makes it really tough for me to kind of give it a probability. Maybe you could look at this like a double bottom, but it's not really doing too much after it. I would just like to see this hold above $6.27. That dates back to 2019. And then maybe you could chart like a supply line, which it could be not only breaking out of or already broke out of, but actually back testing right now. So that's another way to look at it. So 627 would be the important level there on OCGN. I know I gotta add a lot more tickers to the chat. Unity is next. I think we're looking at this recently. Just delete everything. This whole entire range is very, very choppy. You know, maybe you could look at it like an inverse head and shoulders. Something like this. And that would probably be the area where you want to see an inverse head and shoulders, right? After major correction. And then you could even kind of maybe look at it like a bullish bat harmonic. So a bullish bat harmonic turning into an inverse head and shoulders is not a bad setup at all. MACD looks fine. I think, you know, earnings are going to come up around the 10th of August according to TradingView. That's probably important. Already broke out of this supply line. It looks good to me over here. But it, you know, even though you have all of this, you know, both of these bullish patterns, it still technically is just within a range. If you just look at it like this, like all this is just one range. So you still would want to see it get above this area, because you even have the 200-day moving average, which just appeared on the chart. This is a newer name that appeared around over here. So like 115 is probably going to be a pretty tough resistance. It already has acted as support and resistance in the past. So I don't think it's going to be easy to break above that level, but if it does, I mean, then you probably can run back up to 147. There's a gap fill over there and there's not much resistance until then. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. Palantir, we were looking at this last week. It looks really interesting to me. Another name that kind of looks like an inverse head and shoulders with hidden bullish divergence on the daily. Kind of looks like FUBO, honestly. And it also broke a supply line. I think if this can just get above the 200-day moving average at 23, there's room up to 24.50 for a gap fill, and then back up to 27.50 as well. I like Palantir above 20 bucks. That's really it, not financial advice. Disney, looking very choppy here. It broke out, made a nice move, and now it's pulled back. Maybe trying to do a little bit of a back test. I guess your resistance is like 186 and your support is 171. That's also around your 200-day moving average. It's probably about it for Disney. If anybody has Disney Plus, watch Loki. That's a great series. I watched it like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Really, really good series on Disney Plus. Roblox is next. I've been looking at this for a couple days now. I think I looked at it actually yesterday when I was scanning. Falling wedge at a critical area. This used to be resistance in April. Today it gapped down a little bit and then it bounced up and then it came all the way back down. It was developing classic bullish divergence. It's kind of stalling out a little bit on the daily. So I really want to see this bounce up tomorrow. It's literally, it closed right at the super important area. So tomorrow I really would like to see a green day for Roblox. That would be very, very important to me if I was in this name. So yeah, that's Roblox. STRR is next. This one is very, very choppy. I mean, really this whole entire range, anything within this whole entire range, like I really don't know. It's had so many ups and downs. If you really zoom out, it kind of is rounding out a little bit. I really don't know. There's not much I can do on this one. It's already just ran up again. Not really my type of a trade. That doesn't mean you shouldn't trade it. You can do whatever you want. It's just not really the area where I can help you out the best. So I'm just gonna move on from that one. DraftKings is next. Maybe a little bit of a downsloping channel here. Not much divergence. I would just like to see it hold above 47. That's really it. And then eventually, hopefully, it can break out of this downsloping channel. If it does so, then you got your 200-day moving average at 52.70-ish. And then you got probably 59, 50, or 60 bucks after that. It looked really good to me down over here. We traded options on it in premium. I remember it on May 13th. It was a really good trade. And it made a nice run. And then I think Hindenburg came out with a short report or something. Then it kind of fell down, bounced up, just kind of being a little bit weird right now. Next up is ANY, a little bit of hidden bullish divergence on the daily, on both the MACD and the RSI. Also, this one's kind of choppy, a little bit all over the place. I guess you have some resistance here at around 374, and then support at like 124 if we're gonna zoom out. And then I guess also support around 212, which is your 200-day moving average. That's really all I could do right there. Pinterest is next. I shared this in the Discord, I think last week. It's like a major inverse head and shoulders. Even a little bit of hidden bullish divergence on the RSI if you zoom in. It just comes down to earnings. I think earnings are very soon. It says the 29th, so this week according to TradingView. Technicals look kind of similar to Snapchat before Snapchat crushed earnings and went insane. If you could see it over here, looks kind of similar to Snapchat. It just depends on the earnings though, you know. Obviously very, very similar stock, similar industry, or literally the same industry. So we'll see what happens there. Square, 50-50 to me. Support's 252, resistance is 278, your previous all-time high area. Earnings are August 5th. It comes down to that. You know, that's the thing with, you know, using technicals right now. It's not the best time because we're in the middle of earnings season pretty much. So that's going to override a lot of these technicals, you know. So you definitely just have to either wait it out or do your fundamental analysis, you know. So that was Square. Yeah, make sure to hit that like button. Let's get to 30 likes right now. We only need 2 more likes to hit that. Make sure to join the Discord. The link's in the description. If you're not on the Discord, you're missing out. All right, click the link and you'll find out everything that's in it. I don't even need to say it. Just join it. You'll be happy. Trust me. That's all I can say. All right, these will be the final tickers of the night. We already looked at both NEO and Roblox. On NEO, I think 43 was the important level. It'll be in the timestamps. I'm just gonna tell you the important levels really quickly in a second. NEO 42.72 is your important level, and then Roblox, literally where it closed is your important level. You know, that's your previous resistance from April, so you just wanna hold those. They'll be in the timestamps if you want the more extended versions, but we literally just looked at both of them already. All right, we'll add these final 2. So Solo, ironically, will be the final ticker of the night. I just put a bunch of dashes in the chat. Don't drop any tickers under that. We're just gonna run through the rest of these and we'll probably call it. First up, we got KDP. There's a gap fill to around 36.67. And again, earnings are at the end of this month, or July 29th. So it comes down to that. You know, I don't like just being super boring, but I just have to be straightforward. Earnings are going to override whatever technical setups I see on any chart. INFI, another one. Earnings August 5th, that's going to override everything I talk about, but we could talk about the levels maybe. 190 is a very important level. It was resistance in 2019. It was support in January of this year. You just want to hold above that, and then resistance would probably be around this 270 to 280 range. You actually have a resistance there historically, and then also your 200-day moving average. AMD earnings literally tomorrow. No point of really talking about any technicals. Just depends on the earnings. Maybe a little bit of hidden bullish divergence. We'll see what the numbers are tomorrow. 94.27 is your next resistance, and your major support is around 85. KULR, a little bit of classic bullish divergence developing on the daily. Actually, no, it's not. It did not make a higher low right there. We did look at AMC. It'll be in the timestamps at the end of the stream. Maybe if we extend this out, it could just be in like a huge broadening wedge or something like that. You could probably chart a little bit better than I did, but something like this, I guess. Resistance at 265, support at like 188 or 184, and those are your levels. Now we got ROKU just testing all-time highs. Wow, it actually broke out of that wedge and went crazy on Friday. That's amazing. I mean, if it breaks to all-time highs, your Fibonacci levels would be, I guess, obviously 500, the psychological level. That's also your 1618 around 502, 503, and then after that you got, believe it or not, the 2618 at 573. I don't know if it's going to get there. It's just that's where your next Fibonacci level would be. If it doesn't decide to go up higher, your support will probably be 434. So yeah, that's ROKU. I mean, not much of a pattern, just kind of going straight up. I mean, there definitely was the pullback. We talked about it. We talked about that descending broadening wedge, and the hidden bullish divergence I probably brought up on the stream as well, probably like last week or the week before. Now we got CHWY. It tried to break out today of this range. Mainly it's just a range. You could look at it like an inverse head and shoulders. Didn't really get any confirmation. I'd really like to see it get above 93. If it can do that, then I think there's room back up to like 106. There's really not much between 93 and 106. I don't think it's going to be easy to break 93, but if it ever does, that would be a pretty real breakout because it hasn't been able to do that pretty much ever since March. Next up is LEDS. This one's getting pretty interesting now. You got hidden bullish divergence developing on the daily MACD and RSI. And maybe it's getting close to a bullish bat. Yeah. Wow, and the pattern completion zone would pretty much be right at the 200-day moving average. So I don't know if it's going to drop down to $6.70, but if it does continue down to that level, that would be a pretty important area. I don't know if it's even going to bounce there, but it would be an important area where you'd want it to hold above. Otherwise, then you'd have like 558 from this previous resistance in March. You have hidden bullish divergence developing on the daily, and I guess you already have it confirmed on the 4-hour. EVK is next. A little bit of potential hidden bullish divergence on the daily. You got support at 207, and then after that, $1.90. It actually already just bounced off that 207 level. And then you got resistance around 326. Maybe this was also a bullish shark pattern. How would I look at it? Probably like this, yeah. It looks a little bit weird, but kind of it is like a bullish shark, and it's already bounced at the pattern completion zone with potential hidden bullish divergence. So I think anything above 207 looks pretty good. Obviously, that would be a 10-11% risk just back down to the support, so you know, it depends on your risk tolerance. AYRO. A little bit of a falling wedge, kind of. I'd like to see it get back above 448. That's an important level. Yeah, it just depends on if it can break out this falling wedge. And there is some classic bullish divergence on. There's actually triple classic bullish divergence on the 4-hour, and on the daily there's not. So that's AYRO, and then finally solo, the bullish. I don't know exactly. I mean, if you zoom out, I believe it's like a bullish Gartley, which we've been looking at for a couple months now. I know Guy and Hat shared this in the Discord earlier. Something like this. That's also really deep. So let me see what else. I know there's a certain way I should be looking at this, but you do have hidden bullish divergence on the daily right now. And then maybe you call this like a scuffed bullish bat forming. Yeah. All right, so a little bit of a bullish bat with hidden bullish divergence on the daily. I would like to see it break this. Probably call this your supply line. Maybe a little bit of a falling wedge too. So I would like to see it break out of that. And if it does, historically, 490 would be your major resistance. That would also be the top of the wedge. You could also just use Fibonacci. And yeah, that is solo. YOLO for solo, not financial advice. What else we got? So yeah, we finished the take request for the night. Any other questions? Game PvP said, do you see maybe next week or the week after money to start flowing out of the big caps into mid and growth? I think we saw a little bit of that earlier today. We saw a relatively flat open for the NASDAQ and the S&P, but at the same time we saw the ARK ETF, the Russell 2000, actually gapped up today. It had a really good morning. At one point I believe it was up like 1%, while the S&P and the NASDAQ were flat. So I think today, and I already put out a tweet about this earlier today, but I think we definitely could have seen some at least short-term rotation, because pretty much this whole entire month, small caps and mid caps have been lagging, and then large cap, especially large cap tech stocks, have been running. But now this week we have a lot of earnings for large caps. So I think maybe this morning, at least for a little bit, we saw some rotation out of large cap names into small and mid caps, but it didn't really last long before a major pullback intraday, and then you bounced up a little bit at the close. I think it would probably just depend on earnings. You know, if earnings don't go well for a lot of these large cap tech stocks, which so far a lot of the earnings have been going well, then maybe you could see, you know, that money go into mid caps and small caps again. If earnings do go well, then I mean, you never know, because a lot of the times, if anybody remembers back in May, a lot, like most of the big tech names beat on earnings, but their stock prices really didn't do much. Some of them even pulled back. It was kind of like a sell the news. So, you know, it could be a sell the news. Like there's so many different possibilities: rotation, sell the news, FOMO. Like there's so many different ways. I just like waiting to see how things go, and then I just react to whatever happens and try and put myself on the right side of probability. So that's just kind of how I look at it. But yeah, Miami's good, Cheddar Freeze. Thank you. I think that's probably going to be it for the night. Again, huge earnings tomorrow: Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, I think AMD as well. I'm not sure. Just look at it. It's on Earnings Whisper or whatever that website is. You can just look at it on whatever website you look at. Let me just double check about AMD. Yeah, AMD is tomorrow. AMD, Microsoft, Apple, Alphabet, Visa, Teladoc, Starbucks, QuantumScape, UPS, JetBlue. So big earnings day tomorrow and pretty much every day this week. And then also the Fed meeting for the next 2 days. So yeah, thank you for watching the stream. Have a good night. Join the Discord. Links in the description. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Be live again tomorrow night at 9 p.m. EST. And peace out.